you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
And take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Hey, good morning. That was close. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit right there, and follow PPD at PPD News. All right, it is Thursday, August 24th, day 3, August 27th. Day 3. You know why? Because I was just looking, and this is what like a lot of this show is going to be about. I was just looking and comparing August 24th to last night, because we watched change over days, over time, and it's definitely different. So I want to talk about that today, and I want to talk about what is making it different. Okay, because there's clearly something going on. It's not what I've seen in the past is like a traditional convention bounce. Trump didn't even speak yet, so that's definitely not it. What I think it is a change, right? So there's a change, and there is a change earlier than I thought there would be. There's like, let me just quickly look. There's a little bit more, which I find strange. This election cycle, there is a little bit more, at least undecided in the beginning. There's just, I always tell you guys 7 to 9%. There for a presidential election like this, folks, people are usually pretty much on their collective sides. There is no real, what's the word? It's a matter of who's going to get out and vote, who's going to motivate who to get out. And then there is, of course, a truly persuadable bloc in the electorate, but it's just not that big. This time, what's going on here is that there were like loose Biden voters, and maybe they don't like Trump's style. Maybe they don't like the way his attitude and the way he does things. Maybe even they chose to sit it out last time, or actually it was more of a turnout. Or maybe they just said, you know what, I'll give Trump a chance. But then they were loose Biden voters because of what I just said, right? And now something's changing. So there's some that have gone back from loose Biden to undecided, and then from straight undecided to Donald Trump. This violence thing is killing Democrats. It's hurting them. It's hurting them bad. And I mean, look, They can pretend. Actually, they're not even pretending anymore, right? So it's actually Chuck Todd having a full-blown angina attack. Black men are, and you know what? Let's just get into this. Black men are absolutely a problem right now for Joe Biden. So the best thing that could happen to some of these voters for Joe Biden is that they simply don't show up, right? That would be the best thing, because some of them may just vote for Donald Trump. And people have been mocking the Rasmussen poll, others, but it hasn't just been them. YouGov, Marist, Emerson, a bunch of these people have already, a bunch of these pollsters have already confirmed that there does seem to be an increase in support for Donald Trump. This does go back a while, but I think what we're seeing is now we're actually able to measure whether it's a vote or it's just like a loose approval, a tacit approval, right? And then you have black women who still remain, they are historically the most loyal Democratic voter, but the men is what is the target voter for the Trump campaign. It's not huge. We're not talking about a huge amount, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. And, so many people have been mocked over it, showing these numbers. And then we see Chuck Todd have a melt. I mean, the Biden campaign has told Chuck Todd that this is a problem for them. And, so now it's real, is my point. It's real. So now I used to kind of double doubt myself. Am I getting this right? Am I doing something wrong? Am I calling too many rural? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe too many rural black voters. It's not. They're affluent. They're in the suburb. I've been looking all morning. They're in the suburbs, the supposed suburbs, right? Where Donald Trump is not doing great. That's who these voters are. And they're working. They're workers. If you look and you see, you across them with, what do we got here? What's their income level? We always ask about employment, right? So the choices are, and I'm going to get into some of this with you guys a little bit more. I just want to collect a little, and by the way, responses are starting to speed up a little bit. So where we could get like 300 to 500 a night, last night we got like 800, which is nice. Very nice. No different. No more blasting out to panels, no more firing any more channels. That's just typical response bias. So one side is feeling a little bit better. They got their convention underway. They're feeling better about their prospects. So they're more likely to talk. Granted, it's still coming in 70-30 female. So that's why, while I got a bunch, I want to wait to share full-blown results with people because that's the responsible thing to do. So oversample. All right. So we'll ask them, are you employed, working full-time? Are you employed, working part-time? Are you unemployed but looking? Unemployed but not looking? Disabled, student, retired? If they are a working black man, that is a problem for Joe Biden right now. Unless they live in urban America. My hair looks a little crazy today. I don't know why. It's a little crazy on camera.
It's the head.
Yeah, I guess. It's the head. What's wrong with my head? What's wrong with the shape of my head? It's the headphones. Yeah. I'm like, she's like, it's your head. I'm like, no. But anyway, I'm waiting for this one thing to go in the queue too. I want to show, but maybe we'll show that during a break or something, give people something to chew on during a break. Because it's kind of long and I want to play the whole thing. Okay. All right.
I just want to say.
Oh, hold on. Let me bring you. Oh, there we are. Hold on. Let me bring her in.
I just wanted to say that I thought it was super awesome seeing some of our viewers sit there and tweet out their tweets. I try, I don't know all your names because they kind of are different from Twitter to, your username. But those that I recognize, you guys are so awesome. That's all I want to say. Well,
they're supportive. That's for sure. And we love you for it. Yeah. Let's take a look at Pence. Look, so Pence was it was his night. It was his acceptance speech. And what I always thought was genius about the choice of Mike Pence in 2016, number one, Trump wanted to go after the Rust Belt. That's pretty clear, right? And wanted to go after the Rust Belt. Number two, Mike's from the Rust Belt. I mean, number three, Mike is from the Rust Belt. Trump is a New Yorker. He's hard around the edges. He's brash. And then Mike is like this, your very typical Captain America, all-American man, Christian. Laura loves him. And I mean, Laura loves Mike Pence. So, so he's that very typical, and that's a great example right there. So like, he's very, he's a textbook, good, solid candidate that for women, right? Putting forward to those voters who think Donald Trump maybe is a little bit too hard around the edges. A great defender of Donald Trump is Mike Pence, right? And then he can also level these attacks against Joe Biden. And he does it in a way, and Laura said this last night, he does it in a way where he doesn't even have to say some of the things that are nasty, like Trump will say, or even Obama, both of them, and Biden himself, and nasty woman Hillary Clinton. They'll make these nasty remarks. It doesn't come across well. They think they're leveling like a devastating attack, and it just looks like you're an right? And nobody likes it. So it doesn't come across right. Pence is totally different, and he'll give you these like shamey faces, right? He'll give you these like, Joe Biden sold us out to China. Like a dad who's like, shame on you, little Joe. Shame on you. And you just put your it makes you feel like like little, right? So here's Pence on Biden. I got a couple of them. Here's Pence on Biden, which I thought was effective because he can go after Biden. For some reason, Biden's favorability rating has taken a bit of a hit. So if you take out all the postgraduates who just love themselves in the Democratic Party, right? Joe Biden's not very well liked. I mean, it's just true. He's just not among most, I would say, middle Americans. So the group of voters that, again, the media told the Democratic Party that this candidate can win back they're not impressed. Okay. And you can drive up his negatives with certain groups, but you do so running the risk of running up your own negatives, because that's what happens. That's just the nature of the beast. But not if you do it like Mike Pence. All right. And that's it. Hold on. And I would just say, as real quick, there was no comparison. Like in the Harris versus Pence acceptance speech, Harris just plead no contest because it was a bad speech. It wasn't just the optics. It was a bad speech. It wasn't delivered well. She's not good at this. And Pence, he is.
When you consider their agenda, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. The choice in this election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. Last week, Joe Biden said democracy's on the ballot. And the truth is, our economic recovery is on the ballot. Law and order are on the ballot. But so are things far more fundamental and foundational to our country. In this election, it's not so much whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, more Republican or more Democrat. The choice in this election is whether America remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country grounded in our highest ideals of freedom, free markets, and the unalienable right to life and liberty, or whether we will leave them a country that's fundamentally transformed into something else.
Yeah, so there you have it, right? And I want to run one more from Pence, all right, because this is what Pence needed to do. And he did. He needed to nicely defend Donald Trump's record, which he does. And by the way, just a little factoid you never hear in the media. I tweeted this out yesterday. We talked about Donald Trump and his impact on space exploration and whether you like Donald Trump or you hate Donald Trump. He's going to be somebody that future generations look back on and say, you know what? Before that American president, Donald Trump, we didn't even have a lunar landing pad on the moon. Did you know that? That's crazy, Dad. Really? How did we get to Mars? We didn't before Donald Trump. That's going to be that. He will be, win or lose, that kind of president. Did you know we didn't even know that blue planet was there? What? We were all alone? Yep. Before American president Donald Trump, because he put that telescope up there, and that's how we found them. So none of these things the media talks about. And Vice President Mike Pence is the chairman of the National Space Council, which was revamped under Donald Trump. And all of those space policy directives, and he did tout Space Force, the creation of the sixth branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. He touted that. He is one of Trump's best defenders, and more than that, he's one of his best drivers of policy. So you want somebody to, push your national space program, put Mike Pence as the chair, and he'll be your guy. So again, so we needed to do that and a couple other things, and it was particularly effective on this clip with when we're talking about law and order. Okay, everybody knows now at this point this is hurting Joe Biden. All right. And it's not just hurting Joe Biden. It's hurting Democrats on the generic congressional ballot. And remind me to talk about, before we get started in this whole data collection the way we do, I'm always very skeptical of everything I see in the media because of what happened to me in 2016. And remind me to talk about a couple of things that I'm seeing in the polling that, once again, I just don't know what the hell they're talking about and where they're coming up with this stuff. And that one of them is the difference between Trump's vote share, his level of support, and then how Republicans are polling in the generic congressional ballot. It's important. All right. But look, one of the things he absolutely needed to touch on was law and order. And here we go.
President Trump and I know that the men and women that put on the uniform of law enforcement are the best of us. Every day, when they walk out that door, they consider our lives more important than their own. People like Dave Patrick Underwood, an officer in the Department of Homeland Security's Federal Protective Service, who was shot and killed during the riots in Oakland, California. Dave's heroism is emblematic of the heroes that serve in blue every day. And we're privileged tonight to be joined by his sister, Angela. Angela, we say to you, we grieve with your family. And America will never forget or fail to honor Officer Dave Patrick Underwood. The American people know we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and standing with our African American neighbors to improve the quality of their lives, education, jobs, and safety. And from the first days of this administration, we've done both. And we will keep supporting law enforcement and keep supporting our African American and minority communities across this land for 4 more years.
That was a great line. The American people know we do not have to choose between supporting our law enforcement and our African American neighbors. That is, I picked that because that is the right balance. So most Americans right now in the polling, especially those that are actually persuadable, they don't see America the way Democrats portrayed America last week. And they don't see this choice. It's like, in order to, maybe they see wrongs, that they think should be, righted, but they don't think that has to be done at the expense of law and order and at the expense of police officers. Most Americans understand that the vast majority of police officers are not bad people. They're not going out there and waging a genocide on people of color. Maybe they do profile as a matter of policing policy. I mean, but they aren't going out there. They don't. So when Democrats try to say, well, this country is systemically racist, we got to choose who we want to be. Those voters don't believe that. So what they want is somebody to say, what? And now, by the way, you can hear Democrats trying. As of yesterday, they're trying to pivot. Donna Brazile, all of them. Joe Biden himself released a statement yesterday, but he did not strike the right tone. That was the right tone. We can do both. We don't have to abandon safety. We don't have to abandon the people who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe and our communities safe at the expense. We don't have to support them at the expense of our African-American brothers and sisters. That is the tone that most Americans want, not the tone Joe Biden came out with yesterday, which was the complete, don't riot, stop the violence, don't riot. That's not the answer. But damn, those racist police officers killed that man or shot that man. That is not the tone they want to hear. It's equivocating and it's cowardice. And at this point, Joe Biden's on the line of being labeled as a coward. He is. He's right. Look, you know what? You know how strongly I feel about this? He's on the line of being a Michael Dukakis. He's going to blow a double-digit lead, which I never believed was double digits anyway. Maybe if your sample's 40% postgraduate. All right. He's going to blow a double-digit lead like Michael Dukakis and get labeled a weakling and get killed in November. He's right on that line. I'm telling you. And I just don't know what else to compare what I'm seeing to. I was not old enough to poll 1988. But if I was, I bet it would look a lot like this. When they just took him and hit him with that Willie Horton brush. And then he tried to get in a tank and he looked like this is what Joe Biden just is doing. That video yesterday, he never leaves his basement, so he can't get in a tank. But so that was the equivalent of Joe getting in the tank in his basement, so he is right on that line. At this point, the only real strong support we see for Joe Biden are among, how would I put them? And I don't mean educated, because a bachelor's degree is educated. That's not even the problem. It's these, either they have less than a high school education, are telling us they're unemployed and not looking. I'm not trying to be, Jack here. I'm telling you the truth. Or they are, and by the way, income amazingly doesn't have everything to do with it, because there are those, maybe they completed some college, they have a bachelor degree, they make $200,000 or more. There's no real relationship there. It's the level of education and where you live, right? So that's really what it is. So it's, I guess, the woke thing, the woke white liberal. That's Joe Biden's strongest support. And I would say urban black females, of course, I would say that's true. But if it's a working Hispanic, Joe Biden cannot count on them. If it's, even a working black man between the ages of 30 and particularly 45, Joe Biden cannot count on them. And if they live in a suburb, Joe Biden definitely cannot count on them. He's getting to the point where look, let me just put it this way. The raw is 20-something% postgraduate, and the race is about even. So let me just, right now, so let me put it that way. The electorate is 16% postgraduate. Maybe they'll get 18, and maybe in a great year, they'd be 1/5. That's not going to happen. He's getting killed among working class people, and you can't do that simply by winning whites. And when I say working class people, I mean they're not wealthy. They may not be poor either. So I hate that term. Yeah. But they're not necessarily poor. They just work for a living. And they live in normal, everyday America. You can't win enough whites to be winning them at the level that the Trump-Pence ticket is winning them versus Biden-Harris. You can't. And So that's where we're at. And that was not that way the other day. All right. I'm trying to tell this really started during the Democratic convention. It really is stunning. This started during the Democratic convention. So, that this isn't a traditional bump. It's a change. And now that's why you're seeing Democrats race as quickly as they can to go and change this narrative. Because, I have to agree with Don Lemon. Nothing else was really sticking. It wasn't. This is hurting badly. And it's hard. It's going to be hard to dispel it because who were all of these officials? The Summer of Love, de Blasio's own daughter. I mean, honestly, Cuomo, Mr. The serial killer of senior citizens, the senior citizen serial killer, Andrew Cuomo, he was the only one who was speaking up. Like when de Blasio was allowing these masks, he could have removed de Blasio though. And I'll tell you what, if Andrew Cuomo removed, because he can, New York state governors have actually this unique power. They can remove the mayor of New York City if he's deemed completely incompetent, like if he thinks that, So there was a point where Cuomo would have given the Democrats a much stronger argument if he would have removed de Blasio, because then they would be able to say, look, I'm a Joe Biden kind of Democrat, right? But now just Joe Biden looks like he has just been drug around on a leash like a dog, swing from one wing of the party to the other. It's like motley crew of radicals and which Pence, by the way, nailed on. They tried to tell you Joe Biden was a moderate. Then Bernie Sanders, he told you to your face at their convention. Just a couple of years ago, these policies were deemed radical. Now we have the mainstream in the Democratic Party. That was one of the stupidest remarks. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to gin up his voters because they need them. But that was not smart. And we're at a point now, like I said, he could end up being unrecoverable, like Dukakis, right? So it gets to the point where people who voted for Michael Dukakis in the primary ended up voting for George Herbert Walker Bush because they were so disenfranchised with Michael Dukakis. That could honestly, they can end up there. So, we're not there yet. I'm just saying that's the trajectory. At some point, the bleeding has to stop. And that's why they completely changed their narrative yesterday, or they're trying to. They're trying to completely change their narrative. I just don't know, because they had their entire convention and they didn't bring it up. And then when the response from Joe Biden wasn't even strong, you had John Kasich. I forgot that clip. Yeah, John Kasich on MSNBC begging. Yeah, Joe Lore's over there going, begging Joe Biden not only to come out and say something, but to say something strong, a strong condemnation. Granted, folks, whatever he said, people like John Kasich, who have sold their soul without asking Mephistopheles his real name, all right, they have nowhere to go. So they have no other option but to shill at this point. So no matter whatever Joe Biden said was going to be a strong statement like John Kasich wanted, but it wasn't, and everybody knows it. He equivocated. It was very bad. It was not good. I don't know why. You know what? They should take Joe Biden off the ballot and just put in mainstream media, because Joe Biden's not running. Joe Biden's not running. Joe Biden's not making an argument for himself. And anytime Joe Biden does do or say something, it's not the right thing. It's the media. Donald Trump is not running against Joe Biden. He's running against an ideologically corrupt media they're going to tell you now that they're against all of this rioting and looting, when they just spent the last 3 months not only covering for it, not only explaining it, not only making excuses for it, but pushing it. And they just tried again. They just did it, they just did it again in Kenosha. This is going to be yet another fraud where the American people were not told the truth. The looters and the rioters even were not told the truth. They don't care anyway. They just want to break something and steal something. They don't care anyway. They're just a bunch of Marxists who want to break something and steal something. The Democratic Party is not moving fast enough for them, turning this into the socialist country they want. I don't even know how we can argue with that anymore. I just, as a joke, showed people the NBC News poll. Who reads NBC News? Liberals. They put up their poll, would you ever vote for a socialist? Just on their own website. Their own readers might, they are a majority socialist party. This idea, like Joe Biden won because the party's moderate, is bull. Joe Biden won because the party and the media convinced the Democratic voter collectively that Bernie Sanders could not beat Donald Trump in a general election. And they asked a guy like me, look at the polling data. What can we do? And a guy like me said, the only thing you got on Bernie is that look how many people, their number one issue is not an issue. It's defeating Donald Trump. That's it. That's all, folks. This is how it goes. They made a call. How do we take him out? And then Barack Obama got on the phone. Barack Obama called Pete Buttigieg. Barack Obama called Amy Klobuchar, even though he can't stand Joe Biden, by the way. He can't. This is another total fraud. Michelle Obama can't stand him either.
Look at all their pictures.
And she really hates Kamala Harris. I know. Yeah, God, really. Yeah. You could just, what she's saying is, just look at all that. Look at the optics of it. Did you see Harris? Michelle Obama praise Harris. Did Barack Obama at all praise the man who was his number 2 for 8 years? No, that's not what they did. They attacked Donald Trump because they can't get voters. By the way, so far, and this could change, but so far, 70% of Trump voters say their vote is a vote for Donald Trump. 63% of Biden voters say their vote is a vote against Donald Trump. That's a loser. It may change, but you know who else had numbers like that? John McCain, Mitt Romney. Those are losers. Losers meaning if love really does trump hate. All right. So if voters really love a candidate, they do go out more than those who hate him. All right. That's the history, and history is meant to be defied, but in the end, that's what it is. Let me just really quick. I'll just tell you guys, just look, like I said, I really would like to collect more, but on the question of gun sales in the last 3 months, remember that question?
Yes.
So it was, who asked me that again? They contacted me too on Twitter saying, hey, I'm Felice. Yeah, Felice. Felice, we're currently out around 10%. So, and what I mean is they've never owned a gun before. Okay. So, these are people who have went out and bought and purchased a gun in the last 3 months for the first time. That's around 9.8% right now. All right. So close to 10%. I actually think that may not sound like a lot, but I actually think it is. And this is a country of over 300 million. If that ends up staying consistent, then we're looking at, 30 million people. That would be crazy. I was actually surprised. I thought it would be more like 3 or 4%, still there, but just not that much. All right. I'm going to take a break, our usual little break, but I'm not going to take the little short 30-second break that we always take. I'm going to show you guys the full speech from Jack Brewer while we take a break, because this speech, Jack Brewer stole the show. This is the kind of stuff, if Donald Trump wins in November, we're going to look back and we're going to say, this is why, because he spoke to average Americans. And the idea that this is the most diverse, outreaching RNC I have ever seen in my life. Relatable. He really is making a play. Yeah, and relatable. He really is, right. And Jack Brewer is a former NFL football player. He'll say it himself. You'll hear him, a lifelong Democrat, and he supports Donald Trump. And he tackles the very fine people hoax, which was, amen. You see that ad by Trevor Noah today? CNN, all these other networks have actually rejected ads from the Trump campaign because they say it doesn't pass the fact check, right? Which is not their job. Their job is to sell advertising slots. Every Biden ad I see on television has a lie in it, at least, right? We were going through it the other day. Every single ad that Laura and I, because we'll do this, we'll look at ads. Every single one has a lie. Nobody fact checks. Trump's campaign ads have actually been rejected by CNN, NBC, and I think others as well. And yet, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the LA Times would let Trevor Noah troll Donald Trump with this ad. I'm not even going to show it and entertain it. But it's about it pushes the very fine people hoax. He's supposed to be a comedian. What's that Korean comedian? He did a Netflix special. I loved it. I'm enjoying it until we get to the very fine people hoax thing. Yeah, he plays a doctor in that one, which they're all in the same group of people together. Seth, and all the rest. They're all in that group. Yeah, and then they'll always regurgitate the cast.
It's like a mobster in that. It's like Cooper.
Hold on, let me bring in so people can hear you. What is again? I can't because she keeps touching that button.
There, it's untouched. The movie with it's a bunch of guys and they're in Vegas. He's about hangover? Yes, and he plays the like heavy duty Asian mobster kind of thing. All right, that's where we remember.
Till 2:00. Get my money. Yeah. That's it. And it was really funny until he starts going into this stupid thing about the very fine people, and you could tell he believes it. He believes it, and I'm sure Trevor Noah, because he's stupid, I'm sure he believes it too, right? But anyway, the point is, look at the double standard. So they can actually reject Trump's advertisement based on that. That's why I get uncomfortable with that. Look, I personally believe politicians should be able to lie to you in ads as long as they're not smearing or defaming or libeling someone, like slandering somebody. It's just that's on you to decide whether or not a candidate or a campaign is telling you the truth. That's on you. You have to make that decision. It is not incumbent on a news outlet to fact check anybody. But I am simply saying that something like this Ken Jeong, that's it. Thank you, Theo. Ken Jeong. Yeah, and it's a lie. I mean, it's a total lie, right? But this one's a dangerous lie. A dangerous one that leads to, it's designed. The lie was designed to lead to racial animus, strife, violence. It's designed for that. So that may actually could be considered I don't know, but still, I hate these impositions. It is not Mark Zuckerberg's job to determine whether or not that's what Mark and Peter Thiel's relationship is probably the only reason why Mark made that decision. It is not Mark Zuckerberg's job, like Jack, they on Twitter, they decided they would do the same thing. I don't like that. That's not America. It's the job of the American voter to decide. All right, but it is 10:40. Let me give you Jack Brewer while we take a break. All right, this way we can kill some of that break time. All right, I was going to play it anyway, but Lisa, I do it this way. I can give you Jack's full speech. While we are doing this, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have you looked at the subscriber count? It's like its own monster. We love you. Keep going, guys. It's a new channel, relatively new channel. Not bad, guys. Not bad at all. And then don't forget to like the page on Facebook. All right. You're watching Inside the Numbers. Here's Jack Brewer on the break.
I'm Jack Brewer, a former 3-time NFL team captain, college professor, coach, husband, son, and father. I'm also a lifelong Democrat, but I support Donald Trump. Let me be clear. I didn't come here for the popularity or the praise, the likes or the retweets. I'm here as a servant to God, a servant to the people of our nation, and a servant to our president. I grew up in Grapevine, Texas, a town that my great-grandfather was the first black man to settle as a sharecropper in 1896. My early high school experience included fighting with skinheads and being a witness in an attempted murder trial after my friend shot a skinhead in self-defense. I remember my dad's bravery when he personally stood up against a KKK rally in my town. In my house, my father taught me to back down from no one. I know what racism looks like. I've seen it firsthand. In America, it has no resemblance to President Trump. And I'm fed up with the way he's portrayed in the media, who refuse to acknowledge what he's actually done for the black community. It's confusing the minds of our innocent children. Before I left to come deliver this message, my energetic 8-year-old son, Jackson, stopped me and said, "Dad, can you please just tell everyone that all lives need to matter and that God loves everyone?" In that moment, I realized that my 8-year-old had figured out what so many adults have seemed to forget. We are not as divided as our politics suggest. At some point, for the sake of our children, the policies must take priority over the personalities. So because you have an issue with President Trump's tone, you're going to allow Biden and Harris to deny our underserved black and brown children school choice? Are we so offended by the president's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," that we're going to ignore that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have collectively been responsible for locking up countless black men for nonviolent crimes? Are you going to allow the media to lie to you by falsely claiming that he said there were very fine white supremacists in Charlottesville? He didn't say that. It's a lie. And ignore the so-called Black Lives Matter organization that openly, on their website, calls for the destruction of the nuclear family. My fellow Americans, our families need each other. We need black fathers in the homes with their wives and children. The future of our communities depend on it. I'm blessed to be able to run inner city youth programs and to also teach in prisons across America. The inmates in my federal prison program literally receive days off their sentence just for attending my class. And that's thanks to President Donald Trump and his First Step Act. President Trump cared about these Americans and their families, even when so many others had left them behind and had written them off. I'm forever grateful for President Trump for that. He endures relentless attacks, and so do many of us, like myself, who support him. But my mama always told me, when the Lord starts blessing, the devil starts messing. This convention marks a time to celebrate our history. Republicans are the party that freed the slaves and the party that put the first black men and women in Congress. It's the party of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. And now, Tim Scott and Donald Trump. Our president has made incredible strides to end mass incarceration and give unprecedented opportunities for black in America to rise. America, let this election be a call for all God's people who are called by his name to humble ourselves and pray together and to seek his face and to turn from our wicked ways. Then he will hear us from heaven and he will forgive our sins and he will heal our land. Amen. And God bless America.
Jack Brewer stole the show. Jack Brewer stole the show. All right. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. Follow PPD at PPD News. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and like the page on Facebook, People's Pundit Daily. All right. Thursday, August 27th. What do we got? 65 more days to go, something like that. I keep losing track. All right. But yeah, big change here. That's the theme of the show. Big pre-convention change. Speaking of conventions, the polling that has been released, that is out, shows on the Real Clear Politics average, no bump for Joe Biden. 0.0 average bump. All right. So while you have some up 1, up 2, you have others -1, -2, and you have others -3, -4 since the beginning of the Democratic National Convention. That is the worst Democratic National Convention polling result since 1972.
Score, you made a record.
Nice record, right? That is the worst. We got Trump's speech up tonight. All right. So also, too, don't forget to look out for that speech by Alice Johnson. I told you guys yesterday, maybe Maybe Jack Brewer could be that one. Oh, the Minnesota Lager was another one. The common theme was, it has been, more like the DNC had celebrities and elites tell you how and what you should do. And if you don't, you're a bad person. The RNC is very different. They're celebrating America and they're celebrating the people of America. And it's a very different theme. A very different. And during this, that's not just it, though. Like I said, we really haven't gauged the impact of the RNC yet. There's not enough interviews, really. Yeah, it's just not. It's going to take some time. And usually that doesn't even show up until a couple of days after the conventions. So whether or not somebody got a bump, somebody didn't, whatever, the impact from the convention does not typically show up in the middle of the convention. It just doesn't. All right. And we're after now day 3. That change is something else. I think Democrats made a huge mistake ignoring the violence. And then, I don't have that. I do have the clip, but they're trying to do this reverse of it, or I don't even have it loaded, I guess, but they're trying to do this reverse. I just don't know how you reverse your position like this after you have, remember the Bill Barr hearing? And Bill Barr was like, why can't you just condemn violence? Why can't you just condemn violence? That's what they have chosen. That is the path they've chosen this time. And I just think that it's bad. It's not going well. Look, before we move on to economic data, all right, I do want to do a couple of things. This is why, and I saw a comment before, that this really was everyday, focusing on the everyday people and relating to everyday Americans, that because they want to tell those forgotten men and women that Donald Trump won over, that like Melania Trump said, I know you are the ones who gave my husband a chance. Somebody with no political experience. And he hasn't forgotten about you, and he won't forget about you. That is like the general comment, right? Here's Rick Grenell talking to those people, or not even, just kind of giving them a little throwback. And by the way, he is a class act. He didn't talk about how he's the first, being, because, Rick Grenell is gay. And this is, I want to paint this contrast, because you have Mitt Romney's Republican Party, much whiter, a lot less diverse. And he dismissed Rick Grenell because he's a coward. He's a coward who caved. People didn't want a gay man on Team Romney. And Mitt Romney dismissed him as a top foreign policy advisor. That's Mitt Romney. That's moral Mitt Romney. Okay? And here we have Rick Grenell speaking, fast forward 6 years, at the Republican National Convention. All right? And I got 2 clips from Rick. Here's the first.
During the presidential primary debates 4 years ago, one outsider stood alone. It said in public what most Americans thought in private. It was 14 years after the start of the war in Afghanistan and 12 years after the invasion of Iraq, where thousands of American troops had died and trillions in taxpayer dollars had been spent. And yet no candidate could bring themselves to admit that something had gone badly wrong with American foreign policy. That the American voter, the American soldier, and the American taxpayer had all been let down. Except for one, Donald Trump. He called America's endless wars what they were, a disaster. The media was shocked because Donald Trump was running as a Republican. And yet he said out loud what we all knew, that American foreign policy was failing to make Americans safer.
That was so important. Okay. He said in public what most Americans were thinking in private. That's so true. I mean, that was like the polling story of 2016, right? People would just tell us all the time, nobody brings it up, but is he right? Isn't he right? Kind of thing. He did that all the time, and he'd come in, he'd break into the room with some topic. You know what? If we were going to waste all that damn money in Iraq, we should have taken the oil, like kind of comments like that. But overall, there has been this bipartisan DC foreign policy establishment consensus. It is a joke in academia. I can tell you, I've been there. It's a joke in academia. It is dominated by realism, but DC and the State Department is dominated by what Rick is talking about. The world's view after the Soviet Union fell, that if we made the rest of the world look like us, we projected and used our power, then we would make the world look more like us. There'd be less war and it would be a better place. It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy. And you had others like Jack Snyder, who wrote Myths of Empire. He would, it's the Tale of El Dorado, the mythical city of gold. Empires overextend themselves, and then it gets to a tipping point, and it's a waste. And who pays for it? Their own citizens. And Donald Trump, I got to just address this, because you got these people, these so-called Republicans that are former Mitt Romney advisors, the same advisors who made Mitt Romney dump Rick Grenell because he's gay, by the way. These are the moral people. These are the moral people, the virtuous of us, among us. That's those people. And former McCain people. These are not traditional Republicans like Politico and others. That woman from Politico I tweeted to earlier, like they are trying to make it. That is a social bias campaign to shame you and shame postgraduate degrees, shame upper crust suburbs. That's what this is. The Republican Party is and has been the America First Party. Donald Trump didn't make up America First. It goes way back, way back. They were America First, and it was about businesses, not multinational corporations. Republicans were not isolationists, but non-interventionalists. And they didn't believe in pushing American might overseas to serve the interests of multinational corporations. That is the root, the history, the roots of the Republican Party. They only got a foothold in this party over the last couple of decades. They couldn't even get a foothold in Poppy Bush's administration. That's the truth. Not these guys. They rode the Gippers' coattails. They hated Ronald Reagan. It's just that after the post-Vietnam era, the Democratic Party refused to start more wars. Why? They are the party of war and always have been the party of war. World War I, Democrat. World War II, Democrat. Korean War, Democrat. The only thing they have in common is, for the rest of the century anyway, 3 out of 5 had to come in and a Republican had to clean it up. Richard Nixon ran on getting out of the Vietnam War, not conducting Christmas Day bombings. He just did it. He said we have to leave with dignity. And the Vietnam War was a Democrat war. And afterward, they got taken over by their base, which was a rather radical but anti-war base. And throughout that period, through Jimmy Carter, and Jimmy Carter's foreign policy doctrine was built on human rights. It was ridiculous. It had no ground in any kind of foreign policy or security studies, academia. It was something just, he fabricated out of whole cloth, and it was seen as weak. And these so-called traditional Republicans, who were really neocons, had nowhere else to go. So they saw the Gipper as stronger, and they went with the Gipper. And they stayed in the Republican Party and tried to get a foothold in Poppy Bush. They couldn't. They tried to get a foothold in Clinton. They had some success. It wasn't until 9/11 that they had any prominence in any major party. They have always been domestic policy leftists and foreign policy warmongers. Always. And Donald Trump has returned the party to the America First route that they came from. So it should shock nobody that these people are just now not Republicans. They're just not. And the truth is, they never really were. And so Rick Grenell says the media was shocked because he was a Republican. Why? Because the Republican Party's brand changed under the Bushes. They changed it from a working class, reluctant to use their power, to America First, to an neoliberal, neocon, interventionalist, elite, rich party. And Bush destroyed the economy, destroyed our foreign policy. And he didn't, but his cowardice doing nothing led to the recession. I know those policies were liberal policies. I'm not trying to say they weren't. But he did nothing about it. Hank Paulson did nothing about it. They knew it. They just didn't have the courage to fight against Dodd and Frank. They didn't have the courage to do it. They were on their way out, and they were hoping to skate before the bomb went off. That's the truth. They left the Republican Party in shambles. And Donald Trump saw an opportunity to bring it back to its roots, especially after Mitt Romney lost. That was the final straw for Republican voters because they were told Mitt Romney was the only one who could win. Rick Santorum, much more of a Republican than Mitt Romney ever was. Rick Santorum's been talking about the working class for years. The only thing is he did get wrapped up in the neocon grift for a while, but then he came back to realism. Mike Huckabee, those are more traditional Republicans. Those are real traditional Republicans. They just lost their way. And it should be no surprise now that the Democratic Party is back to being the party of warmongers, which is where they started in the 21st century. It should be no surprise. They had a short blip after the Vietnam War because they did not want another failed intervention tagged to their back. So they had a short period of where they accepted the anti-war pacifist left into their movement, and then they were able to try to pretend like they were the party of non-interventionalism. They have always been the party of making the world safe for democracy, right? Wilson, no, I'm not going to get it. I'm just not going to. They wanted those wars. They wanted them, folks. Wilson let the Lusitania sink. He knew the Germans had told him, do not let these merchant ships in there. But he wanted to help our Anglo friends across the pond because he believed the Anglo-American race was a superior race. He wanted it to happen. So he let those people die. FDR knew the embargo on the Japanese, the metal and oil embargoes, were going to cripple them and leave them absolutely no choice but to attack. He let it happen. This is the real history. All right. They have always been the party of warmongering. Always. So they don't teach it that way. They don't tell you anything like that. So it should be no surprise. None. And look at the contrast that to Eisenhower, who actually had to go fight the wars that the Democrats started. Right? And what was his foreign policy? You start a war and I will nuke you back to the Stone Age. Amen. Because I'm not killing another 200,000, 500,000 young American boys. I'm not doing it. I'm pushing the button. Dulles, get ready. That was his foreign policy. I'm not kidding. That was his foreign policy. You fart in my direction and I'm going to nuke you off the map. And then it went to JFK and the best and the brightest, they call themselves, and they believed in symmetrical response instead of asymmetrical response. Asymmetrical being, you fart in my direction, I'll nuke you off the map. And symmetrical being, let's make an appropriate reaction. And that led to escalation in Vietnam. And then when JFK was killed, Johnson did not want to look like a coward. He continued to escalate, and we ended up in Vietnam. And that's how it went. And it took a Republican to end it and clean it up, saving face. Gipper was no warmonger, but he had those people infest his party because he wanted to be the party of it. And Fitzpatrick said about any ABC, anything but communism. So they didn't care about dealing with dictators. As long as America could control them and make them in their image, she was all right with it. Kirkpatrick, she was all right with it. All right. So it should be no shocker to anybody that these people are now back in the Democratic Party. That is their home. Bill Kristol's daddy was a leftist. Bill Kristol was a leftist. Oh, you think Irving Kristol was some kind of like Reagan Republican? They hated Ronald Reagan, George Will, Charles Krauthammer, the whole lot of them absolutely hated Ronald Reagan. Hated his guts. You know what? I'm going to pull that interview up eventually one day of Bill O'Reilly just destroying George Will. And these people destroy, if you're Democrats listening right now, you better boot these people from your party because they destroy everything they touch. Everything they touch turns to crap. Everything. From the Republican Party to American foreign policy to Scott Walker's campaign. Scott Walker's campaign he wasn't ready for prime time, but had he been, he would have been the only one who could carry other states in the Rust Belt that Trump ended up carrying. But George Will's wife got involved and destroyed his campaign. Everything these people touch turns to, all right? They have the opposite of the Midas touch. The opposite. And you better, look, you better boot them from your party now, or else one day you'll be the one watching Colin Powell going, this little vial. This little vial. All right. Talk about vial. All right, look, one more from Rick Grenell before we take a break.
A return to the Biden way of thinking means America gives the radical terrorist regime in Tehran a plane load of cash in the middle of the night. Well, you see, President Trump also sent an aircraft in the middle of the night to deal with Iran. But that plane was on a different mission. An airstrike to take out the head of Iran's terror machine who plotted the deaths of Americans.
Hey, there you go. That was a great comparison, by the way, where he said, Obama and Biden, they sent a secret plane in the middle of the night, which was, of course, the bribe to the Iranian regime. And Donald Trump sent one, too, to kill Qasem Soleimani. I mean, that was, he should have been more like, because there's some people who probably don't know, didn't know what he meant.
I think they were mad, though, that.
Hold on. There you go.
I think they were mad that he didn't, do a full-on war, that he actually targeted him, got him, killed him, and came back home.
That's right.
With no innocent lives lost.
That's absolutely right. And they were mad as hell that he didn't escalate in Syria. And a lot of this intelligence war against Donald Trump, this internal intelligence war against Donald Trump, the American people have no idea about what really happened behind the scenes. They have no clue that Donald Trump telling the CIA to end their covert operation in Syria. Look, privately, publicly, the war in or the conflict in Syria is like a peacekeeping, a humanitarian mission to stop the civil war in Syria, to make sure people don't use chemical weapons. That is bull. To kill ISIS, really, that was the top public policy, sold to the American people. We have to kill ISIS, eradicate them from Syria. That was always a lie. The actual Syria goal, the actual Syria objective was regime change, to get rid of Bashar al-Assad. That is what they'll tell you publicly, but privately, it was regime change. And Donald Trump in the spring of 2018 sat all of those guys down in the Situation Room, and he said, you're going to end your covert war. You're going to figure out, going around the room, you're going to end your covert war to the CIA. You're going to figure out how to withdraw troops to the Defense Department. We're out of here. Out of here. And that's when Mattis and the lot of them gave the green light. And the National Security Council had always been, underminers of the Trump administration. But once they realized that he was deadly serious with ending these wars, because when Mattis heard that on Syria, they started all whispering with each other, the National Security Advisor, they said, he's going to go to Afghanistan next. Afghanistan's next. It was next. They were right about that. And they feared that a demand, an order of withdrawal from Afghanistan was imminent. So once they realized he was deadly serious about keeping his promise with no foreign wars, they flipped out. They didn't get him. They didn't dupe him with the chemical gas attack. He did the bare minimum, which really was for China. He was meeting with Xi Jinping when he sent those tomahawks. And Xi Jinping was in the middle of eating his cake when he heard about it. Oh, I was busy. Sorry, I had to lob a couple tomahawks at Assad. How's the cake? When are we going to start trade negotiations? That's what that was for. So he used it as a double, shut up the critics and to tell Xi Jinping he is not playing. So it served two purposes. Yeah, for I can't even pronounce his name at CNN. He said, "This is the night Donald Trump became president." Oh yes, because lobbing tomahawk missiles, potentially killing innocent Middle Easterners. That's what really an American president does. So it wasn't the vote. It wasn't your vote, the election, that made him a legitimate president. It was the bombing of Syria. I mean, this is the kind of crazy people you're dealing with, folks. They are. It's like, look, they're not good people. All right. Like, I don't know what to tell you. They're not like decent, good people. Bill Kristol last night attacking Tucker Carlson for attacking Nikki Haley. And then he said that, this kind of rhetoric can get somebody hurt. You know what could get people hurt, Bill? Saying the Iraq war is going to be 2 months. Fast forward all these years later, and there's upwards, because I actually wanted to look it up. How many Iraqi citizens have been killed since the invasion of Iraq? And some estimates are 200,000. So that's low. I'll tell you right now. But some estimates are as low as 200,000, and some are as high as 1 million. Has anybody caused more death and destruction than you, Bill? Except for maybe John Bolton, right? I don't know. I don't know. But this whole group, just getting into that, I wanted to clear that up. None of these people voted for Donald Trump in 2016. You see nothing on the polling that would suggest that they are making any effort. Those are voters that were always didn't like Donald Trump. There are small section of still that will self-identify as Republicans, but he has historic base support. In the polling, I'm talking about as a matter of empirical evidence, he has historic base support. So these people now, I think it was Molly Hemingway the other day, she said it, and she said they're just irrelevant and they're essentially Democrats. That's true, because they maybe represent, Laura, like 4% of self-identified Republicans. Like 4%. That's it, So we're not, we're not talking about a huge chunk of the party here. We're just not. Otherwise, we would see it. We would see it in the polling. All right. And we would see it in his vote totals. Even if the polling was wrong, we'd see it in his primary vote share totals. And, he's got historic levels of them too. If Donald Trump loses, it'll be because a number of things happened at once, but it won't be because he suffered from, base rejection. That's ludicrous. All right, listen, I'm going to take that 1 o'clock hour, and we'll be back right after this short pause from the Grammy-considered Bowen Band. I said it right this time. Don't forget to subscribe to People's Pundit Daily on YouTube. We'll be right back right after this break.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, we're back. We got to look at some of this economic data. All right, we just got to do it because we missed it yesterday. There was one particular report that was huge. I touched on it, but it was a big deal, and we have to get back on it. Look, GDP out today. I just want to go through this really quick. GDP out today, the second estimate for Q2 2020, which was like that. This was the COVID quarter. Can we call it the COVID quarter? All right. The end of the first quarter too was basically, it says again, right in the damn press release, folks, the economy was not going to slow down. That was a media fabrication. The consensus forecast was going to be beat. Maybe it was going to be weaker on the first quarter. But as we have spoken about and as we have shown you, and I will show you again right now, the first quarter was very often weak under Barack Obama. Very often weak, as you could see here, multiple first quarters of negative growth, post-recession negative growth. And his first quarter was always a throwaway where everybody knew that it was going to be, everybody knew that it was going to have to be made up in the subsequent three quarters, right? So there it is right there. You can see it on the chart. Obviously, a historic ugly decline for the second quarter of 2020. But it is not as bad as some of the forecasts expected, where we were looking at upwards of negative 40% growth. Goldman Sachs, negative 35. All right. It came in the first estimate at negative 32.6, I think, something like that. No, let me get it. Negative 32.9. So the second quarter on an annualized basis, folks, dropped negative 31.7 instead of negative 32.9. I'll take that upward revision of 1.2%. I'll take that. Real GDP in first quarter of 2020, negative 5 because of the stay-at-home orders once again. Though the Bureau of Economic Analysis specifically cited the mitigation efforts to slow the spread of coronavirus for both quarters. And they put it's in quotes here because that is what they said, not what we say. The upward revision was due to private inventory investment and consumer spending, or personal consumption expenditures, as they call it, otherwise known as consumer spending, being stronger than initially thought. So it chipped away at the downside to the stay-at-home orders. The forecasts range from a low of negative 33.6 to a high of negative 31.6. The consensus forecast was negative 32.6. So once again, the second estimate, which is based on more complete source data than the advance estimate reported last month, was better than the consensus forecast. All right. And so really, one thing I'd like to just do here, if possible, let's do this. Here's Obama's. Let's go to 2009. Let's be nice, right? Let's be nice. This is Barack Obama and Donald Trump's. Very rocky ride under Barack Obama. Here's his throwaway first quarters. Here's a negative 1 in 11. Here's a negative 1.1 in 2014. Here's a negative 1 into negative 0.1 in July of 2011. We had very rocky stuff. And then you could see here, you'd have a quarter of like 4.7 growth. So then it would drag up what was essentially the very weak quarters. And Barack Obama averaged about 2%. The weakest recovery since the Great Depression. Donald Trump is elected. We get the very first quarter under Donald Trump. It's 2.2. All right. That was the first time we had seen growth above 2% in the first quarter in years. And he was 3% in 2018. 2019 was like 3, just under. Even though the Bureau of Economic Analysis started doing something funny you should know about under Donald Trump. They started using an alternative measure to get the annualized rate. So under Barack Obama, when they reported annualized gross domestic product, and Charles Payne and I from Fox Business, we discussed this. I called the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and we absolutely confirmed they had changed their headline report for GDP, how they calculated it. They used an annualized rate that was different than what they were reporting under Barack Obama. And if, in fact, you were to do the same measurement, you would be looking at stronger growth rates, that 3%, and stronger under Donald Trump. What they were doing was taking the year-over-year difference instead of taking the 4 quarters and averaging them together. Under Barack Obama, that is what they did. And that was what the headline is. That is the traditional read on gross domestic product. Yet for some reason under Donald Trump, they found the need to do that. Why? So one of the years was 2.9 instead of 3. I don't have another reason for you. I asked him. They just said, no reason, right? No reason. We just, it's an alternative measure. That's just what we put out this time. Bull. They're a bunch of bureaucrats in the federal government who are leftists, and they thought they could shave 0.1 of a percentage point off by doing it in the alternative measure. But that is not how it was reported under Barack Obama's administration. All right. So here we go again. Myth dispelled. This was not going to happen. And in fact, the way things are bouncing back, folks, which I want to show you right now, that's the point of me doing this. The way things are bouncing back right now, it is absolutely possible that we could see such strong growth in the third quarter that it actually, the annualized rate for this year will be positive. I am serious. There are many indicators from housing to manufacturing that are showing growth bouncing back at another level. All right. So what I mean by at a pre-pandemic level, can we get up durable goods here? Here we go. Durable goods. Where are you? Come on, durable goods. Durable goods I mentioned yesterday, but we didn't get a chance to go over it. So let's go over it real quick. Durable goods orders soared 11.2% in July, beating the forecast for the third straight month. All right. Census Bureau does this as a bureau of the Commerce Department. New orders for manufactured durable goods, which are goods that are meant to last 3 years or more. So think appliances, aircraft, all right, stuff like that. They went up 23.2 billion to 230.7 billion in July. Folks, that is almost to the boom era, the Trump manufacturing boom. That is what, and I'm going to show you that. That's the third straight month of strong data beating the consensus forecast and the prior month being revised higher. It's a nice picture of Trump right there. Forecasts for new orders range from a low of 3% to a high of 9.1. The consensus forecast was 4.3. Are you seeing a theme here, guys? Even the high end of the forecast range was beaten. It's not just that a lot of these indicators we go over on the show are beating the consensus forecast. It's that they're beating the high range of the consensus forecast. New orders for durable goods were also revised higher from June from plus 7.3 to plus 7.7. And that is a level of 207.5 billion. Let's look at the 1 year and then we'll take a look at something. Well, first of all, here's all right. So we had some serious boom at that time. That was a good month under Barack Obama. I remember that. But I think there was the defense that year with the you guys probably know, a lot of you guys are high information people, viewers, the deal with the Republican Congress to beef up one of the Boeing contracts that may have skewed that because clearly it looks like a very volatile month for that month. All right. But here we are again under Trump. When the pandemic hit, it dropped. These months were far surpassed. Like you can see Barack Obama's normal level is like around the low 2s. All right. Even before that, it was pretty abysmal, but you got to give him some leeway because of the recession. Right. So really the low 2s, and then the mid 2s were hard for Barack Obama's administration to reach. Under Trump, we definitely saw that, especially in 2018 when we saw that big manufacturing boom going as high as 262.2 billion. And then the pandemic hit. It crushed it. went as low in April of 2020 as 167.5 billion now, because these are in billions, all right, or millions. I'm sorry. So that's why it's like this. So now though we're back up to 230.7 billion. All right, that if we zoom in on it, looks like a what? And it's almost to the pre-pandemic level again, where we can get around the 250 billion range. All right. This is a lot bigger than expected. Durable goods don't bounce this big. They don't fall that big either, but they don't bounce that big. So it was bigger than expected. All right. Excluding transportation, new orders, which would use like aircraft and stuff, guys. New orders for durable goods rose 2.4%. Forecast range from a low of 1% to a high of 4%. The consensus forecast was 2. All right. So it beat the consensus again, though that was a little bit more moderate. So it does go to show you some of that disproportionate contribution from transportation. All right. All right. Let's go to the next one here, because it's 11:21 already. I want to hit questions in like 9 minutes. Yeah, I got what do I got? How many more do I got here? That's GDP. We went over GDP. I just want to go over jobless claims. All right. So let's end that. Let's get rid of that. Here we go. Jobless claims. Come to me, jobless claims. Where are you? There we go. Nice traffic on the website in the last couple of days too, folks. All right. It's very erratic though. It's erratic. It's not steady. It's erratic. All right. Jobless claims fall. Oh, you guys can see it better like that, but there's like kind of no point to have me putting that picture there. You want to intercept this for me?
Yes, I got you.
That's Nico's cell phone. Oh my God. It's an era. It's the end of an era. I think it is. All right. Jobless claims fall 98,000 for the week ending August 22nd. Insured unemployment falls to single digits. Highest insured unemployment rates are in strict lockdown states. This is continuing. If it wasn't, so people always ask me, well, what do you think's going on with the jobless claims numbers? If it wasn't for these blue state governors and mayors, these numbers would look a lot better. They just would. California, New York, they disproportionately hammer this report. And the high lockdown, the strict lockdown states are having a very hard time coming back. On what are the odds? Barnes and I talked about his state, Silver State. Just keep that in mind when we get to the bottom of this. Highest insured unemployment rates are in strict lockdown states. All right, so initial jobless claims fell 98,000 to a seasonally adjusted 1,006,000 for the week ending August 15th. It kind of stunk 2 weeks ago. We saw that dip below 1 million for the first time in almost 5 months. That was great. It was a nice drop, about double the size of what we're looking at this week, but a tick back up again. So at least we're seeing, like I said last Thursday on the show, let's hope that that is not a trend and that reverses. So it is. And that's good news. All right. Let's hope next week is a drop of like 200,000, 300,000. The previous week was downwardly revised by 2,000. So it jumped up to 1,106,000. It was 1,104,000. So not a big revision here. It was a bad week. There was a tick up, and that's unfortunate. Forecasts range from a low of 925,000 to a high of 1.1. So the consensus was 987,000. Again, this report being one of the few reports that is not beating the consensus consistently, which is an unfortunate shame. Here's the 1 year. You can see that weak pop back right there. A couple of pop backs. I'd like to see better than this. I'm hoping for a real, like a precipitous decline, like a large, precipitous decline. But right now, we just haven't gotten it. This stupid policy in the CARES Act. If I was Trump, it's politically smart to do what he did with the executive order. But the CARES Act provision should not really be encouraged. It's a stupid provision. There are jobs out there. The 4-week moving average came in at 1,068,000, down 107,250. The previous week's average was revised down by 500. Not that big. Lagging jobless claims data, right? The advanced seasonally adjusted insured unemployment rate fell back down to single digits for the week ending August 15th. We're at 9.9, folks. right there. It was revised down by 1/10 of a percentage point for the week prior, 10.2 to 10.1. This is looking a little bit better. All right, so here, we'll get into the history of it, but here's the 1 year. There's the pandemic, and we started to tick down. We've had some weeks where we've had some unfortunate setbacks, but all in all, the trend is much clearer than jobless claims. You guys know, if you watch the show, I'm obsessed with this indicator. It's a big deal. It pisses me off probably more than most other indicators, even probably more than GDP, to watch GDP come in at like negative 31.7. And here's why. The insured unemployment rate hit the first high of the current crisis at 8.2% for the week ending April 4th. The all-time high prior to that was 7 flat. It was recorded during the deep recession in the 1970s in May 1975. On April 11th, it rose to 11% and then to 12.4 on April 25th. And then you guys know it hit its zenith, its plateau, on May 9th at 17.1%. But under the Trump administration, this rate had fallen to an all-time low, 1.1%. And it remained at 1.2% just weeks ago, as recently as March 14th. But that was before the coronavirus mitigation efforts. And by the way, the only time it left that 1.2 for as long as it did, which I think it first tapped on that in early 2018, it only came off that 1.2 to bounce back down to the all-time low 1.1. And it did that a couple of times. But generally speaking, it hung at 1.2%. That is the sign of a truly tight labor market. That is the difference between Barack Obama's employment and Donald Trump's employment. Here's Barack Obama. Yes, you can see it declining, okay? And it hovered and it stayed. It's very difficult to get it below that 1.5%, especially if people are leaving the labor force. All right? It's just that they start to become long-term unemployed. They're excluded. And then we had this fall. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick. And it was beautiful. And with labor participation rising, which is more people entering the labor force, there were the JOLTS report showing plenty of jobs to support them. And yet this rate still kept ticking down like that. It's a shame. It really is a shame. The advanced number for seasonally adjusted insured unemployment during the week ending August 15 was 14.5 million and change. That's down 223,000. The previous week's level was revised down by 86,000, and the 4-week moving average for that fell 604,000 to 15,215,000. That's nice. But check this out. Extended benefits were available in all 50 states, not 52, in all 50 states, Puerto Rico and DC. During the week ending August 8th. The total number of people claiming benefits in all programs for the week ending August 8th fell over 1 million. 1,042,323. That's solid. The highest insured unemployment rates in the week ending August 8th were Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Nevada, California, New York. That's the top 5. Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Nevada, California, New York. I did that one on purpose. All right. You didn't see my cue. The largest increase in initial claims were in Jersey, Florida, New York, Texas. All right. That rounds up the top 5. They killed their own states. Why is Gavin Newsom still destroying 16.1% of his, his labor force? Why is he still doing that? Is there an epicenter for the epidemic in California right now? Why is this silver state destroying their this is the thing though, we talk about with Barnes. It is not going to be easy to bring back the silver state. It's the nature of the industry that has flourished there all these years. And it's a real shame because it was much, much, much stronger over the last 4 years. A lot of people were hit disproportionately hard during the housing crisis in that state. And it was really looking good before this. But it's one of those just very tenuous situations, the sector, it's the industry. It's tenuous. They cannot take economic suicide like this. They can't weather the storm. They cannot weather the storm of stupidity. And it's just because these are people. It's not an economic number. These are people. And that's the tragedy in this. All right? That's the tragedy. All right.
My turn.
Yeah. It'll be your turn in a second.
The people turn.
All right. Listen, we'll get into questions here after I take my little 30-second water break. Okay. I need to Rubio up here. Okay. I need to Rubio up. All you guys who are just tuning in for the first time today, don't forget to subscribe to the page on to the channel on YouTube, People's Pundit Daily. Okay. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, go on and click that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to let you know when we're going to go live. There does seem to be some issues with YouTube. They play little games. All our tags get stripped away. It's kind of funny. But anyway, go ahead and do that. And then also Facebook Live viewers, no problems there. If you do like the page People's Pundit Daily, you want to watch on Facebook Live, you will get that notification like immediately. That they're right. Facebook's they're on the money, you know. So
I'm never there.
Yeah, but Laura typically isn't there, but that won't matter anyway soon, because soon all of the comment sections, she's going to be, you might as well be running this anyway at some point here, all right? So anyway, yeah, so we'll get into that. But like the page on Facebook, and it will give you that notification. And then, of course, the best way to support the show is to subscribe to People's Pundit Daily, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. And thanks to everybody who has done that, especially since the start of the show, because there's been a very clear increase from it, and we love you for it. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will look at your questions. Okay. 30 seconds. Is that what I got to take this water break? All right. All the best, folks.
I reclaim.
Thank you all for listening to me tonight. And one more thing. Let's make America great again.
All right, we're back. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. On the People's Pundit, follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit right there, and follow PPD News at PPD News. All right, follow People's Pundit Daily at PPD News. All right, so let's get into some of your questions. All right, and I will give the floor to Miss Laura to field those questions. Let me add her. All right, Laura, what do we got? Give me the first one. Shoot.
All right. So from Periscope at Brazzi, will the travel ban be lifted any day soon from Europe to USA?
You know, I don't think that he could really, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think that he could really risk at this time the potential for, because some of these people didn't get their stuff under control. I mean, the UK, the media heralded them, right? Look at Boris Johnson. He's like Trump and he's doing it. Why does Trump have to be like Trump? Look at the UK. And now look at Boris Johnson's approval rating. He had his inflated jump and then it dipped. But there are still some people who haven't gotten it under control. I don't know the answer to that question. I could just say from a political point of view, I don't know that he would risk doing that and then bringing back another wave of infections from a new form of mutated virus. So he banned from China, which kept that strain out of here for as much as it can be done. And then he was kind of a little bit slower with those those bans to the UK because the UK has different standards for people who come into the country. They just didn't do a very good job on it. So the European strain did get into here. I'm not sure if he would take the risk at this time of allowing easing travel restrictions to basically allow another wave. So the answer to that is I would not count on that anytime soon. Oh, I could be wrong though, because I don't know. Let me just say though, friends of the show thing real quick. It's 11:35. I forgot. All right, so don't forget, I was on Quite Frankly last night with Frank, and if you didn't hear that interview, we had a great talk. That's a great show. All right, and then also New York City Guns. They both run on prime time. All right, so or at night. I think Frank starts at 7. New York City Guns starts at 8, I believe. But that's Glenn at New York City Guns. Another great show. All right, so just wanted to do that. All right, next question.
All right, next question is from. Oh wow, sorry. I have a lot of questions for you. Ashwin wants to know your latest insights from your own polling. Is Trump winning Michigan, Wisconsin, and PA at the moment?
Yeah, so we're doing a national polling, and then right after that, they'll leapfrog each other. So that will be Rust Belt state polling. So I can't speak to that yet, but I can tell you that basically, because they're disproportionately more working class, less educated, so he'll likely be doing better. Nebraska too. I just saw that by Evan. That's a great question. He'll likely be doing better than in some of these Rust Belt states than he will be nationwide. All right. It's possible that one of them or a couple of them buck that trend. It's certainly possible. I'm just saying among the working class that populates, anything north of Milwaukee, he's killing it. And anything west of Philadelphia, outside of Allegheny, Pittsburgh. So it's going to be close. The problem is, and I see already some of your questions from some of these other pollsters, these polls that are being released. Folks, I'm telling you, you will see it when I release it. They are not polling enough people. They are not reaching enough people. These responses are so skewed toward the educated liberal. They are the only ones who want to take it, and they take it at higher rates. They jump on the interviews quicker. They are not polling enough people. And you cannot poll somebody in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or outside, even in the suburbs, and then think you know what that's going to mean for Luzerne County. You just can't do it. And the worst part about it is they know they can't do it. They know they can't. It's a major problem right now. So actually, sometimes, it would be like it depends on the sample size for some of these polls, but in some respects, it may be actually more accurate to see some of the trends in national polling, and then the states tend to follow, but that's historically been the case. Lately, states have gone their own way, but in the end, they're not doing what it takes to reach these people. They're not spending the money that they have to spend to reach these people. I mean, they're not well, Laura don't want me to give away some secrets, but it's a real problem. And the worst part is they know they have a problem. Everybody knows they have a problem. Are they still doing registered voters? Is that what the Joker said? I mean, if that's true, that's a freaking joke. I'm sorry, but I would essentially ignore registered voter polls at this point. We're casting a large net first. We're going with registered voters. The likely voter screen will be implemented, but it will not be as tight as it's going to be as we get closer, because if you do tighten that likely voter screen a little bit too soon, you'll miss somebody. There'll be somebody who doesn't look like a likely voter in August or September. And if you screen them out come October, they could be a likely voter. And you're going to miss. It happened to a ton of people in 2016. They got the raw data that said, you know what, Trump might win this thing. They just chose not to believe it. I know not everyone, but a lot of them did, in fact, get it. And they chose not to believe it. So we're not going to have, even ours will probably be a little bit more pro-Biden but just because we're not going to tighten that screen as much as we could. But as time goes on, I'm telling you, you can clearly see it. Those who are really enthusiastic and are absolutely certain to vote, and we cross them with the voter file, and they're going to vote. Trump has a serious advantage with those voters. I mean, like double-digit advantage. So it will have an impact. So that is also too why some of these earlier polls just are, by nature of how they're conducted, more favorable to Democrats than the actual result in the actual elections.
All right, King of Jerusalem is very inquisitive today. How much do you fear a 269 electoral college result this election? And with anti-war policy, is New Hampshire really in play? I haven't seen a single good state poll from there. They seem to assume Biden will pick it up regardless.
Well, the last University of New Hampshire poll, which is one of the Slimer's favorites, that was Hillary Clinton plus 13 at the last poll. It was not Hillary Clinton plus 13. It took us a very long time to continue to poll that tiny little state to reach enough people north of Manchester to have some idea what the hell is going to happen. It's weird because there are like some rural conservatives who don't like Donald Trump, right? And they're like, I don't like his attitude, this, that, the other thing. But then you have like those very traditional crossover working class voters. They love him. So it's very easy to think when you're looking at data, if it's not sufficient, it's very easy in a state like New Hampshire to say, ooh, Trump looks like he's going to lose a big part of his base. And the independents that I only got from Manchester and other blue areas, they're going for Biden by like 5. So because Democrats are going to be 5 points more of the electorate, that's like a Trump point. That's like a Biden win of like 8 or 10 points. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And when you miss everybody else, it shrinks those margins, right? And then of course they're not even trying for a likely voter scream at this point, So right, Keith Kellogg's speech. I wanted to bring that up, and maybe I still will. Keith Kellogg's speech was directly gauged towards Donald Trump carrying a state like New Hampshire. All right, and also, Minnesota, they're not lovers of intervention either. So it's that's absolutely true. So I saw that comment. You're absolutely right, Jack. That was definitely geared towards New Hampshire, and I'm terrified of a split. I am. Because I got asked the other day, how do you factor this into your polling with all of these unsolicited ballot requests? You cannot do it. You just can't do it. So how much am I worried about a 269 split? A lot, because I know what they're doing. I know what the game is here. And I don't think we can take another election like this. I really don't. I don't think we can take another question about who is and who isn't a legitimate winner. We have got to move on. Regime credibility, it matters more in a democracy. When losers lose, they got to lose. They have to admit it and move on. They denied this man 4 years of his right to govern. His voters stamped right to govern. If something happens again, I really fear all hell is going to break loose. It has to be a decisive win on either side.
Funny thing, speaking of Jack was the next person. Jack Lawton wants to know, you say Trump is doing about 1.5 points better in the Battleground state polls, and we talk about how the polls didn't tighten to a few days before the election. But how much of that was Comey? And he also wants to know, what do you think of Bill Stepien? I don't know how to say his name. Stepien.
Yeah. Let me look for something here, and we're gonna feedback. We're gonna feedback. Let me look for something here. I actually don't think, Jack, that James Comey had much to do with it at all. I think that's pretty much a Nate Slimer supported invention of the Democratic Party, who could not look. Nate was dying to give Democrats their excuses because Nate was so wrong, of course. So if he could find something to support Democrats' excuses, then he could help justify his own incorrect calls multiple. So that was not true at all. Our polling did not really reflect any change after WikiLeaks. In fact, when WikiLeaks was dumped, Hillary Clinton took a 2-point lead in our poll. So it took a couple of days and then it shaved off again. The truth was, during that race, there was always a couple of things that was happening, and really the events didn't change that. The only thing that Comey could have done to any degree was just simply reinforce what some of those voters who didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton already thought of her anyway. It wasn't like it was some bombshell big October surprise that that changed the direction of the race. It didn't, and really, in truth, that was an election about the status quo and the economic structure in America, which is why immigration got roped into it so much too, and a way of life election. And she was the establishment candidate in an election where voters wanted anti-establishment change, not just change, like, as Democrats could use that too today, but that's not the same kind of change. They wanted anti-establishment change, like real change. Barack Obama had just promised them real hope and change, and he delivered nothing. And that's not what, like, the liberal dogma is not the change that most of those voters who voted for Obama were looking for. They didn't mean change like that. They meant change to the economic structure, to the rich screwing the working class, to two standards for everything, for every aspect to society. So yeah, I don't think that happened at all. And as far as Bill goes, they're talking about that consultant, right? Bill, he's a consultant, I think, or something, right? Bill Stepien.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, he's a consultant that's took over from Parscale. I mean, look, I just think there's other talent out there. I don't want to just try. I don't think that he is the guy who is in touch with the roots of the message that earned Trump the presidency and could keep him, the president. I just don't think that he's that guy. All right. And I think that he's basically much of the same, really. I mean, I'm trying to be nice here, I really am. It's not the pick I would have told him to make.
All right. From Periscope at Brian Trippett. He wants to know, is New York State in play? I am hearing that Biden's internal polling has it close.
Yeah, so Biden's getting killed in some of the Long Island suburbs right now that you would think are, they were Clinton country, and you would think they would be Trump country. There's Long Island is not just the way it used to be, where Long Island is Long Island. There are different areas. Some are more Republican, and some are Trump, some are Biden. Hillary Clinton carried some of these districts. I know I've seen the polling you're talking about. I have seen it. And then I've also seen other political polling from local Republican officials. The city is where the votes are in New York City, guys. It's a ton of votes compared to the rest of the state. It has been true that the state has been red for a long time, and then New York City was the only real blue area outside of Buffalo, right? So that's where the votes are in the state. It would be an act of God for Donald Trump to carry the state of New York. All right. And that is true even if he cleans up in all those other areas. There are too many immigrants. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just simply saying it. There are too many non-native New Yorkers. There are too many damn woke liberals in New York City. And I remember when Giuliani won there and what the city was like. I'm from New York City, for people who don't know. That is not the same city. My beloved city is long gone. It's never going to come back. It's not going to come back. The people who voted for Giuliani, who gave Reagan New York. My mother was so pissed. She thought she was. My biological mother was a rabid Democrat. She was so pissed. She was like, he's going to take New York. What the hell is going on? Right? I remember that. But that state is not the same state anymore. And sad but true, a lot of the people that made New York great have left. And they're making other states great. And they chased them away. They did it to themselves. New York City does it. New York City, which I love the Big Apple. There's still a part of me that's still, I'll always love it. I will. It's just not the same place. And it could actually get worse than it was before the Giuliani era. The problem is that electorate wasn't as ideologically rabid as it is now. It's just a shame. Like, you could look around and say, you know what, I'm a Democrat, but wow, this is bad. They don't, they're so. All right.
Joyce wants to know from Periscope. Pelosi stated that she doesn't think Joe Biden should be in any debates. One, how will that affect it? And two, how can they prevent that from happening? Like, to get him.
I told you guys that they would absolutely, I was not joking. This coronavirus thing, this fear mongering, this fear porn is simply a way. They don't give a
Good job.
They don't care about any of the senior citizens who have dropped dead from coronavirus. They don't care about, they're the ones who caused it. They don't care about how many kids may or may not get infected if we open schools. They don't care. This was to get a quasi kind of election where we run this like Zoom meeting kind of election. There's a reason for that. They want the media to tell Joe Biden's story. Everybody knows Joe Biden is senile because he got through a 20-minute, the shortest acceptance speech in the history of modern conventions, scripted and well practiced for over 2 weeks. Does not mean he's not senile. Joe Biden is senile. He's not nice. He's a nasty guy. You challenge him on something in his old age, and Joe will go off on you. They don't want him anywhere near you. It's not because they're afraid you or he will catch coronavirus. They don't want him near you. They will tell you who Joe Biden is. End of story. And they don't want him to debate Donald Trump. They will do everything in their power to keep him off that debate stage. And why would they do that? Do you remember the debates in 2016? The moderators were like, Hillary was on the stage, and then it was Trump versus Hillary, and Trump versus Hillary 1, Trump versus Hillary 2, Trump versus Hillary 3. The moderators were Democrats arguing with him on the stage. It will be worse this time. Worse. But they can't have Joe Biden up there. He may pop a blood vessel on live television. He may forget what the hell he's doing there.
He will. He breaks.
Look, for people who don't know how senility works, in times of stress, all right, a taped, practiced, dubbed, whatever convention speech you can reduce the stress on him by rehearsing well and shortening a convention acceptance speech. You cannot reduce the stress of a verbal confrontation and intellectual debate. This is why you see Joe collapse on the trail. This is why Iowa rejected him. This is why New Hampshire rejected him. They are the voters who saw him up close, the closest. They got the best look at Joe Biden. And the Silver State's another one. They canceled him. That is why. Because they saw what the media is trying to prevent the rest of the country, you, from seeing. And they can't have it. So when I tell you this is a quasi-Zoom third world election, I am being deadly serious. No presidential debates. He could have moved that up. They even got the Presidential Election Commission to help him on that one. They are absolutely arm to arm, chain link united in this effort. And they will, and Pelosi is just doing her job. You know what? Someone's got to get back to this. Joe can't debate. The media is running their columns. Oliver Darcy calls it a hoax one day, yet there's 3 people on his own damn network making the case for it. I mean, it's a total joke. I don't know how nobody can see. I don't know how that. Well, not nobody, because I know people do see it. I don't know how some people still can't see this. They will not let Joe Biden debate unless he absolutely has to. If Donald Trump gets a bounce out of this election and he starts, and they can't stop the bleeding from this violence, then they'll put him on the debate stage. But rest assured, if Joe Biden keeps a 10-point lead in the national poll and they believe it, he will not debate. He will not. I'm telling you. Mark my words. Mark my words. All right. Yeah. I mean, well, look, Trump, I got the back and forth from the Trump campaign with the presidential election. They were giving him any day he wanted. They just weren't trying to debate. 11:56. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Lori Packwood or Packwood, not sure. How do you think people responded to the profile speaker who was a former abortion worker? That was the most impactful speaker I saw so far. Do you think the tide is turning on the abortion movement?
Yeah, I think the tide has turned. So we've done, and we were hired to do a really deep dive into the issue of abortion and people's opinions on it. We've tracked it over time for many, many years. In the 90s, that was the height of the pro-choice movement as far as designation. It's ironic. They have science working against them. So the more we learn about the practice, the realities of the practice of abortion and the abortionist industry, the more egregious it is, the more their lies fall apart, the more their excuses about the right to your own body fall apart. Listen, when I was a kid myself, things were very different. When we poll women, the very women they're trying to win right now, and you tell them what abortion really is, the modern position of the Democratic Party, it collapses. Even 2/3 of white women in the suburbs, the last time we polled, were horrified and opposed to late-term abortion. They didn't really understand what it meant to say you are of the pro-choice designation. And that's what we were hired to do. Explain to them and try to identify what it is about the realities of abortion they don't know. And even women who chose pro-choice designation, when you expanded on what that meant, and she was great, and so was the sister, by the way, Sister Byrne, how she said, this is, Donald Trump's the most pro-life president. That was another one. They just didn't make it to the queue, but it doesn't mean I didn't think it was important. They sure up, that argument that Democrats were trying to make, if you were really a Christian, you couldn't vote for this man's character. Well, it's either you don't like Donald Trump's style, so you're going to justify voting for a guy who supports the whole unfettered practice of ripping a fully developed baby from the womb of their mother. That was one of the most powerful moments in 2016 when he turned to Hillary Clinton and said, well, you're basically a baby killer. They don't know what our research found is that they really didn't know what the reality of abortion was. They didn't understand how many almost Kermit Gosnell-like things happen in this country. They just didn't know what they meant. They did not know what the modern position of the Democratic Party meant. And when you tell them, they're horrified. So her speech was very impactful. And so was Sister Burns. I thought she did a fantastic job. They trot out some progressive nun who doesn't even wear a full getup, to try to appeal to Catholics. And the RNC answers by not only a nun in her full getup and garment, but a nun who was a surgeon in the military and full bird colonel. It was really a one step up from what the Democrats tried. It more than answered that.
All right. Thraxis wants to know, how is Cory Gardner looking in Colorado? I know it's a long shot, but I'm hoping that Colorado can hold on to him.
So I actually think that Cory Gardner was one of the most vulnerable incumbents, if not the most invulnerable incumbent, the Republican incumbent senator this cycle. However, there is actually, and it's not just us, it's not just a party. His numbers have gotten a lot better over the last couple of weeks. Much better. So they absolutely think now, and that's funny he asked this just yesterday. I was emailing back and forth with somebody who knows and is involved with the NRSC's polling. And they were like super confident Cory Gardner was going to hold on to his seat in Colorado. Their numbers he has with Hispanics were, higher than they thought. Listen, I think they're being a little bit too, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't celebrate before it's over. I mean, the fact of the matter is Colorado was not the same Colorado, even it was when Cory Gardner first won election. And Cory Gardner did not win. Here's what he does have going for him. He didn't win election in 2014. He didn't unseat Udall because not enough Hispanics showed up, or it wasn't a turnout issue. We ran an analysis. We gave Mark Udall the exact electorate that Barack Obama had in 2012. And all it did was shave off 0.2 of a percentage point from Cory Gardner's victory. He still would have won, but it would have been very, very close. It has changed, though, since then, and it's very young. So it's not only that, it's very young. Listen, we're going to have to wrap it up. I can hear what's going on over here, and it's getting very distracting. I will add tomorrow's Freewheeling Friday, guys. I'll answer a lot more questions for you tomorrow. But this is, it's very difficult to do this in my ear. But I will just, you know what? We'll make Trump's speech very quick. We'll go over the convention very quick tomorrow, maybe the first half hour, 45 minutes, and then I'll answer more of your questions. I know that's going to be disappointing. I personally wanted to answer a lot more, but I can't. All right, it's just part of the practice of doing this, All right. So listen, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right. People's Pundit Daily on YouTube, and hit that notification bell. That will give you that notification when we go live, if you don't get them late, hopefully. And then like the page on Facebook, People's Pundit Daily. Ultimately, the best way to support the show, folks, is to subscribe to the show. To subscribe to the website, pbdnews.us/subscribe. pbdnews.us/subscribe. All right. Again, tonight, folks, pay attention to Alice Johnson tonight. All right. And there'll be a slew of others. Much more high energy tonight, more resemble night one for sure. I would expect anyway. I got the embargoed email earlier. That's what it reminds me of. And then, of course, with the culmination of Trump's own show, the Trump show, right? So we'll talk about it tomorrow, but keep your eye on Alice Johnson. I really do think it could be a key moment. I would have put her right before Donald Trump, probably, if it was me. I probably would have done that. I'm serious. That's how important that could be. All right. So it's 12:03. We'll see you back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wrap up the RNC and do some Freewheeling Friday. All the best, folks. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker.
us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be your bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette.